If we had just left sooner, maybe things wouldn't have ended like they did. Maybe my mom would still be able to sleep through the night. Maybe my dad wouldn't wake up gasping, like he's drowning in air. Maybe Lily wouldn't have had such a horrible experience while sleeping. Maybe I would still be a normal kid without nightmares lingering in my mind for years. We moved in at the start of September. It was supposed to be a good thing. A new beginning, my parents called it. A fresh start. I still remember the way they smiled at each other when they signed the papers. The house had been on the market for a while, but they didn't seem to care. A place this big for this price? It's a blessing, my mom had said. She was already picturing family dinners in the dining room, birthdays in the backyard. My dad was thinking about fixing up the basement, turning it into a workshop. Lily just wanted a bigger bedroom. And me, I just wanted to be anywhere but there. The wind grows softer, almost like a breath in the background. A faint, irregular tapping, like rain but dry. I tried to ignore it. The way my stomach clenched when we pulled up to the driveway. The way the house just stood there. It wasn't the biggest on the block. It wasn't the oldest either, but there was something about it, like it was waiting, like it had been empty for too long. Mom stepped out first, grinning. She stretched her arms out, breathed in deep. "Can you feel that?" she asked. "The fresh air?" My dad laughed, said it was a huge upgrade from the apartment. Lily ran ahead, her little backpack bouncing against her shoulders, already calling out, "I want this room," before she even knew which one was hers. I didn't move, not right away. I just sat there in the car, gripping the seatbelt, staring up at the windows. They were big, too big, like eyes, like something was looking out. The wind picks up for just a second, then stops. Mom waved me over. "Come on, honey, let's check it out." So I did. Because what else could I do? I told myself it was just nerves. A new place, a new town, a new school coming up. Just my brain playing tricks on me. That's what I kept telling myself over and over. But when I stepped inside, I swear, just for a second, I could feel it. The shift, the way the air pressed in just a little too tight, the way the walls felt too close together, the way the whole house felt like it had been holding its breath. Distant rustling, like fabric brushing against itself. The house settling, maybe. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not bad, not rotten, just stale. Like the air had been sitting still for too long, like it hadn't been touched in years. My mom wrinkled her nose. "Guess we'll have to air it out a bit," she said, already throwing open the windows. My dad was running his hand over the wooden banister, nodding in approval. "Solid build," he said. "They don't make houses like this anymore." Lily was already upstairs, her little feet thudding against the old wooden floors. "This one's mine," she yelled from somewhere down the hall. Mom laughed. Dad laughed. I didn't. I just stood there, looking around, feeling that tightness in my chest that I couldn't explain. I don't know why, but I turned toward the hallway, the long one, leading to the back of the house. It was darker there, no windows, just a stretch of dim space disappearing around the corner. And that's when I saw it. The first thing, the first sign, a single picture frame hanging on the wall. Nothing weird about that, except the photo inside wasn't ours. A beat, the sound of a clock ticking, slow and steady. It was old, faded, a black and white picture of a family, a man, a woman, 2 kids. They weren't smiling. They weren't even looking at the camera, just standing there, staring at something beyond the frame, something I couldn't see. "Guess they forgot one," Dad said, stepping up beside me. He reached up, took it off the wall. For a second, I thought I saw something in the reflection of the glass, a shape, a shadow just behind us. But then he turned it over, chuckling. "No hook. Someone must have just leaned it against the wall and left it there." He tossed it onto a side table, dust puffing up where it landed. "We'll get rid of it later." The wind outside shifts, a low creak, the house settling or something else. Mom called us to the kitchen, said she'd found a box of dishes left behind. Lily came bouncing down the stairs, and just like that, we moved on. We carried in boxes, we picked our rooms, we started unpacking. Just a normal family in a new house, settling in. Nothing strange, nothing wrong. But I knew, even then I knew, something was watching us, and it wasn't planning on leaving. That first night we were all exhausted. Moving takes a lot out of you. Lifting boxes, unpacking, trying to make an unfamiliar space feel like home. By the time the sun started setting, my parents were still sorting things in the kitchen. Lily was already curled up on the couch with a blanket, and I was in my room, sitting on the edge of my bed, just listening. A faint rustling sound, the distant tap of something light against a surface. I don't know what I was listening for. The house was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that makes you hold your breath without realizing it. The kind that stretches thick and heavy between every sound. Dinner was quick, takeout from someplace nearby. We sat on the floor because the table hadn't been set up yet, eating off paper plates. Mom was talking about paint colors for the walls. Dad was making jokes about how much stuff we had to unpack. Lily was nodding off between bites. It was normal. It was good. But the whole time I couldn't shake this feeling, this sense that something was just beyond what I could see, that if I turned too fast, if I looked too long into the dark corners of the room, I'd see something looking back. Distant creaking, soft, rhythmic, like something shifting upstairs. At one point I glanced at the staircase. It led up to the second floor where our bedrooms were. The hall light was on, casting a glow up the steps, and right at the top, just for a second I thought I saw movement, a flicker, like someone had just stepped back, just out of sight. My stomach clenched. I turned back to my parents. Did you see that? Dad barely looked up from his food. See what? I hesitated. I didn't want to sound crazy. Nothing. Thought I saw Lily up there. A pause, then a soft giggle, Lily's from right beside me. I'm right here, she said, her voice sleepy. I felt my whole body go cold. I looked back at the stairs, but there was nothing there, just the empty hallway. Dad shrugged. Old house, probably shadows, you'll get used to it. That's what they always said. You'll get used to it. But I didn't want to get used to it. I wanted to forget it, and I wanted to forget it fast. A door shuts upstairs, not a slam, just a quiet, deliberate click. Lily must have heard it too because she sat up. Who's up there? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Mom frowned. Nobody, sweetie, we're all down here. Dad sighed, brushing crumbs off his jeans. It's an old house, guys. Wood expands, pipes shift, air moves through the vents. Houses make noise. That explanation should have made me feel better, but it didn't. Because in the silence that followed, I swore I heard it again. Another shift, a slow, deliberate sound, like footsteps, right above us. Crickets outside, the occasional soft ticking of a clock. Then, silence. Later that night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling. The walls felt too thin. Every time the house made a sound, I flinched. I told myself it was nothing, just old pipes, shifting floorboards. That's what Dad said, right? Houses make noise. Nothing weird about that. Scratch, soft, subtle, like something small moving inside the walls. I sat up, my breath caught in my throat. It was close, just behind my headboard. A scratching sound, slow and steady, like something was inside the wall. I pressed my ear against it, trying to hear better. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch, like small fingers running along wood. My first thought was mice, rats maybe, but it didn't sound like that. It wasn't frantic like an animal scurrying. It was slow, intentional, like it was listening for me too. I yanked my blanket up over my head and squeezed my eyes shut, heart pounding. I wanted to call out for my parents, but what would I even say? That the walls were scratching? That I thought something was moving just beyond where I could see? That's the thing about these moments. When you're in them, you start doubting yourself. You start telling yourself that you're being stupid, that if you just ignore it, it'll stop. So I ignored it. I pressed my hands over my ears, forced my breathing to slow, and I stayed like that until I eventually fell asleep. A pause, deep silence, then a whisper, so faint, it almost isn't there. Hello. The next morning I convinced myself it was a dream, just a leftover feeling from the stress of moving in. I didn't even mention it to my parents. They were too busy setting up furniture, unpacking boxes. Mom kept humming to herself. Dad was outside fixing something near the fence. Everything was normal, almost. At breakfast, Lily was sitting at the table, swinging her legs. She looked tired, dark circles under her little eyes. I nudged her. You okay? She shrugged. Didn't sleep. Mom ruffled her hair. New house jitters? Lily didn't answer. She just stared at her cereal, her spoon barely moving. And then in the quietest voice, she said, "They don't like us here." Silence. A single heartbeat-like thump in the background. Mom blinked. What, honey? Lily looked up at me, then back at Mom. The people in the walls. A cold, creeping pause, then the distant sound of something shifting upstairs. The nightmares started on the third night. At first, I thought it was just me. Stress, maybe. A new house, unfamiliar sounds. It messes with your brain. But then I realized it wasn't just me. We were all having them. Mine were always the same. I was standing in the hallway outside my bedroom, the air thick and heavy like I was wading through water. The house felt wrong, like the walls were stretched too far, the doors too narrow. And then I'd hear it. A faint whisper, layered under the narration, just out of understanding, more breath than voice. Someone whispering, calling me by name. At first it was far away, then closer, right next to my ear. I'd turned to look, and there, just beyond the glow of the hallway light, was a figure, tall, still. Its face was nothing but darkness. I'd wake up gasping, heart pounding. Every night, the same dream. But I didn't tell anyone, not at first. It felt stupid, like something a little kid would be scared of. Then one morning while we were eating breakfast, Lily pushed her cereal away and whispered, "I don't like my dreams." A pause, a soft clink of a spoon against a bowl. Mom frowned. "What kind of dreams, sweetheart?" Lily stared at the table, the bad kind. Dad ruffled her hair. "It's just your brain getting used to the new house. Happens to everyone." But Lily didn't look convinced, and neither was I. The night after that, I woke up. I don't know why, maybe a sound, maybe a feeling, but suddenly I was awake, staring at my ceiling, my heart pounding. Silent stretches, heavy and expectant. And then I noticed it. The air in the room felt different, too still, like everything was waiting. I turned my head toward the doorway and froze. There was someone standing there. A pause, the sound of slow, deliberate breathing. Just a shadow, taller than my dad, thin, its edges flickering like heat rising off pavement. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It just stood there, watching. My fingers twitched toward my phone on the nightstand. My chest was so tight it hurt, and then I gasped, lunging for the lamp, my fingers fumbling against the switch. The second the light flickered on, the shadow was gone. But the door was still open, and I knew I had closed it before bed. A faint creak, the sound of a floorboard shifting just outside the room. I sat there, gripping my blanket so hard my knuckles ached, listening. But there was nothing, just silence. Eventually, I convinced myself I had imagined it, that my brain was still half asleep, still full of the nightmare. I told myself that over and over until I finally somehow drifted off. A faint whisper, almost too soft to hear. "Not yet." Morning sounds, birds outside, the clatter of dishes in the kitchen. The next morning, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. My whole body ached, my head was heavy, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to sound crazy. Then, as we were eating breakfast, Mom suddenly put down her coffee and rubbed her arms. "Does anyone else feel weird in this house?" Dad raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Mom shook her head. "I don't know, like I'm being watched, like something's off." A slow, creeping chill ran down my spine. Lily looked up from her plate. "They don't like the lights on," she said. Mom blinked. "What, honey?" Lily shrugged, pushing food around her plate. "They don't like the lights on. When it's dark, they come closer." A deep, stretching pause. Dad sighed. "Enough with the spooky talk, okay? It's an old house, that's all. New places take getting used to." Lily didn't argue. She just went back to eating. But the rest of breakfast was quiet. Too quiet. Distantly, a soft scratching sound, barely noticeable, just inside the walls. At first, the weird things were small, so small that we could explain them away if we really tried. The TV remote would be in a different spot than where I left it. The bathroom door, which I knew I had shut, would be wide open. My school notebook, gone from my desk, would show up later in the kitchen like I had sleepwalked with it. Little things, things you could forget, things you could blame on someone else. But then, they got bigger. The faint creak of an unseen door shifting slightly. One evening I was in the kitchen grabbing a drink. The fridge light flickered as I opened it, buzzing like it was struggling to stay on. I pulled out a soda, shut the door. A sudden loud clatter, something falling. And every single cabinet was open, low creak as if something unseen has just moved. Not just cracked open, wide open, every single one, like someone had walked through and yanked them all open at once. A tense pause, the distant sound of a clock ticking, suddenly too loud. I froze. My brain tried to find a logical reason. A draft, a small earthquake? But the house was silent, the air still. My hands were cold, my throat tight. I reached for one cabinet, hesitated, then slowly closed it. One by one, I shut them all. My pulse was pounding in my ears. When I turned to leave, I caught my reflection in the dark kitchen window. A beat, the sound of a shaky exhale. I wasn't alone. A faint rustling sound, like fabric shifting. There was something behind me. Not in the reflection, in the kitchen. I turned around fast. A deep stretching pause, a single faint whisper. Go. Nothing. The hum of the refrigerator continues, unbothered. But I felt it. The air was thick, pressing against my skin, buzzing with something I couldn't see. I left my drink on the counter and walked out fast. I didn't turn off the light. I didn't look back. It was Lily who made it clear we weren't alone. I woke up to the sound of her whispering. Her voice was light, cheerful, like she was playing make-believe. A faint giggle. Then, as if responding to something, Lily says, I can't tell them. You said not to. I got up, my pulse quickening. Her room was across the hall. The door was cracked open, light spilling into the dark hallway. I peeked inside. A faint thump, like something unseen shifting in the darkness. Lily was sitting cross-legged on the floor, her dolls spread out in front of her. She was looking at the empty corner of the room, smiling. Who are you talking to? I asked. She didn't even flinch, just turned her head toward me, blinking like I was the weird one. My friend. I looked at the empty corner. What friend? She giggled. You can't see him, silly. I swallowed. The air in the room felt thick, warm, wrong. I forced myself to sound casual. What's his name? She hesitated, her fingers twisted in her lap like she was debating something. Then she whispered, He doesn't have one. Silence. A faint, rhythmic tap, tap, tap against the wooden floor like fingertips drumming, but from where? I stared at her, my stomach turning. Lily, when did you meet him? She shrugged. He was already here. A slow creak just outside the door, like someone shifting their weight in the hallway. I turned fast, my heart in my throat. Nothing was there, just the dark, empty hallway. A faint whisper, almost too soft to hear. Don't tell. I didn't sleep that night. Our dog Max had always been easygoing, happy, tail wagging, always underfoot when we were eating. But after we moved in, he changed. It started with the basement. Max wouldn't go near the door. Every time he walked past it, he'd lower his head, his ears back, growling deep in his throat. This afternoon, I tried to call him down with me. I was looking for some old books Mom wanted. I stood at the top of the stairs, patting my leg. Come on, Max, let's go. He stopped at the threshold, whined, and backed away. I laughed. Come on, don't be a baby. I reached for his collar to gently pull him forward. A sudden, sharp bark, aggressive, loud, the sound of claws skidding against the wooden floor as the dog scrambles backward. Max lunged away from me, snarling, something he had never done before. His body was low to the ground, his teeth bared, his tail tucked so far between his legs it almost touched his belly. A tense pause, the dog's frantic panting. He wasn't looking at me, he was staring at the basement door. My stomach dropped. A sick feeling crawled up my spine. The door was open, a long, slow creak, like something shifting just out of sight down the stairs. I didn't remember opening it. Silence. Then a faint, deliberate knock from the darkness below. 1, 2, 3. Max whimpered, backing up so fast he nearly knocked over a chair. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking. That night, Max wouldn't sleep in my room like he always did. He curled up by the front door instead, ears perked, staring into the hallway. I should have told my parents. I should have told someone. Because by then, it was already too late. I thought I was dreaming at first. You know that feeling, when you're half awake, half asleep, and the world feels off? But this wasn't a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night. My room was dark, the only light coming from the hallway through the cracked door. Everything was still, too still. A pause, a slow, dragging inhale. And I couldn't move. A deep silence. And the faint sound of fabric shifting, like someone adjusting their weight at the foot of the bed. I was awake, fully awake. My heart was pounding, my breath shallow. I tried to lift my arms, to turn my head. Nothing. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps, but they're coming from inside the room. And then I saw it. A sudden stop, no breathing, no sound at all. A shape, too dark, darker than the rest of the room, crouched at the foot of my bed. Silence. The sound of a heartbeat, slow and heavy. It wasn't just standing there, it was hunched, its arms too long, its head tilted, watching me. I could feel its weight on the mattress, the way it dipped slightly under its presence. A beat, then soft, almost amused. "You can see me now." A rush of static-like sound. The mattress shifts as if something is crawling closer. My lungs burned. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The air felt thick, pressing down on me, crushing me under something invisible. Its hand, if it even had hands, pressed down on my chest. My vision blurred. I tried so hard to move. And then, a sharp jarring sound like the snapping of a twig, a sudden rush of movement. It was gone. Just like that, I gasped, sucking in air so fast it made me lightheaded. My body jerked upright. My room was empty. But the door that had been cracked open when I fell asleep, it was wide open. Silence, then a single faint knock coming from the hallway. Late at night, the soft hum of a ceiling fan, the occasional rustle of bed sheets. My mom didn't say anything at first. She probably thought she was imagining it. But one night, she couldn't ignore it anymore. The sound of slow breathing, a faint whisper, too quiet to make out words. She told me she woke up to the sound of someone whispering in her ear. At first, she thought it was Dad talking in his sleep. But when she turned over, he was facing away from her, completely still. The whispering grows louder, insistent, urgent, angry. She said it wasn't just one voice. It was several, hushed, frantic, overlapping, too fast to understand. She tried to sit up to turn on the light, but the moment she moved, the voices stopped. Her skin was covered in goosebumps. She lay there, frozen, listening. And then, a single drawn-out breath, right beside her ear. "Get out!" A sharp gasp, the sound of a lamp clicking on. She said she nearly fell out of bed trying to turn the light on. The room was empty. Then a faint, distant creak, like a door opening on its own. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Dad was quiet. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept at all. Mom kept glancing at him. I could tell she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Not until she set her coffee down, wiped her hands on her jeans, and said, "You saw it, didn't you?" A long pause, a breath held too long before being let out. Dad didn't answer right away. He just sat there, his fingers curled around his coffee mug, staring at nothing. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "In the basement." Silence in the air. The air in the kitchen feels heavy, charged with something unspoken. I looked at him, my chest tightened. "What did you see?" He exhales sharply, rubs his temples. "I don't know." Mom's voice was quiet. "Yes, you do." Dad swallowed, his throat bobbing. He looked at us for a long time before finally saying, "I saw someone down there." They weren't looking at me. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "They were looking up the stairs. At you." The sound of a chair creaking as someone shifts uncomfortably. We didn't speak after that. We just sat there, listening to the house creak around us, pretending we weren't waiting for something else to happen. We should have left right then and there. But we didn't. It's nighttime. The faint sound of a clock ticking, a distant steady drip of a leaking faucet. The house is too quiet, like it's holding its breath. I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember waking up to the sound of something crashing downstairs. A loud, sudden bang, then silence. It was loud, too loud to be something small. It sounded like furniture being thrown across the room. The sound of hurried footsteps, a door opening slowly, the creak long and drawn out. I sat up, my heart pounding. The house was dark, but I could hear movement below, slow, deliberate, like someone waiting for me to come look. Then another crash, this time from the kitchen. The shattering of glass, a chair scraping against the floor. I wasn't the only one awake. My parents' bedroom door opened and my mom whispered, "Did you hear that?" Before I could answer, my dad was already heading downstairs. No hesitation, no flashlight, just blind, reckless determination. I wanted to stop him, tell him not to go, but I couldn't move. My whole body felt wrong, like I was stuck in that awful moment before something bad happens. The sound of a light switch flicking on, but instead of a soft, steady glow, the lights flickered, fast, unstable, like something was messing with them. Then I heard my dad say, "What the hell?" A low scraping sound, like wood dragging against the floor. I reached the top of the stairs just as my mom whispered my name. Her face was pale, her hands gripping the railing so tight her knuckles were white. I looked down and saw the living room. A long, breathless silence. Everything was wrong. The couch wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was flipped over, cushions scattered. The coffee table, shattered. Picture frames that had been hanging up were gone, but the nails were still in the walls. The TV was on, but it was just static. The harsh, erratic sound of white noise. It shouldn't be on. The remote wasn't even in sight. And the worst part? A slow, heavy heartbeat. The dining chairs were stacked. Perfectly, one on top of the other, forming some weird, impossible tower, balanced so perfectly that it felt intentional. A pause, a deep inhale. Dad took a slow step forward, and the moment his foot touched the floor, every single light in the house went out. Total silence. Nothing but shallow breathing and the distant hum of the static-filled TV. Then the door to the basement swung open on its own. A slow creak, long and strained, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop. Something moved inside, something big. A sudden shuffling noise, heavy, deliberate, like something dragging itself up the basement steps. We didn't wait, we ran. The hurried sounds of footsteps, doors being thrown open, panicked breathing. We didn't pack. We didn't grab our things. My mom just grabbed my little brother and ran straight for the front door. My dad hesitated just for a second before grabbing the car keys off the counter. The keys jingle. The front door groans as it swings open into the night. We ran outside in bare feet and pajamas into the cold night air. But as I stepped out onto the porch, I heard it. A whisper, so close. The sound of static fading out. Don't go. The front door slammed shut behind us, on its own. My dad started his car hurriedly, and we drove without looking back. We never went back, not for our clothes, not for our furniture, nothing. My parents sold the house at a loss, didn't even step inside to clean it out, just left the keys and signed the papers. I don't know what was in there, I don't want to know. But sometimes I wonder, if we had stayed just one more night, what would have happened to us? We never talked about the house again, not really. My parents avoided the topic. My little brother was too young to remember much, and me? I tried to forget, but I couldn't. A few months later, we found out it had been sold. A new family moved in, a couple with a young daughter. I wanted to warn them, I really did. But what was I supposed to say? Hey, your house is wrong, get out before it's too late. So I said nothing, and we moved on. It's been years now, I'm older, wiser, I don't scare as easily. But sometimes I still dream about that house. In my dreams, I'm back in my old bedroom, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The air feels heavy, like something's waiting. I hear footsteps in the hall, slow, measured. The door to my room creaks open, and standing there, a heartbeat, slow, deep, louder. Is it? A shadowed figure in the doorway, unmoving, watching. I try to move, but I can't. My body won't listen. The room is dark, but I can feel it standing there, closer now. Too close. A breath, not mine. And then, just as I finally manage to scream, an abrupt cutoff, then I wake up and it's a dream. The dream always ends there. I don't know what would have happened if we had stayed, but in my dreams, I never make it out.